Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Foliage. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So today I have another beautiful plant which again belongs to the family of Marantaceae. Now this is called as Calathea Zebrina. It's a very beautiful plant. It has this beautiful light green leaves with these stripes which are almost black in color, and it's very striking, tends to stand out in your collection. If you are a fan of such plants, you can definitely add this in your collection. Now again guys, this is not a very beginner friendly plant because as we spoke about this earlier as well, almost all the plants from the family of Marantaceae or the prayer plant or the Calatheas are little difficult for beginners, especially if you are from a very dry environment, and growing them outside can be very tricky, almost impossible to grow them outdoor in a dry environment. But if you have a dry environment outside, you always have a choice of growing them indoor with the help of a humidifier, but you cannot use humidifier outdoors. Now let's talk a little bit in detail about the soil mix. Now the soil mix that I tend to use is the same for all of my plants. I'll put it up on the screen. So I use a little bit of coco peat, I tend to use a little bit of garden soil, I tend to use a little bit of perlite and some sand. The coco peat in the soil is going to retain moisture because Calatheas like a little bit of moisture in the soil. The garden soil is going to retain a little bit of water and it's going to give the natural nutrients to the plant. Apart from that, the sand in the soil is going to make the soil well draining because Calatheas love well draining soil, and the perlite is going to make the soil airy, so there is a good amount of air circulation in the roots. So we need to have a soil mix that is well draining, tends to retain slight moisture, does not hold the moisture too much because Calatheas do not like soggy wet soil, so we have to ensure that the soil tends to retain slight moisture. At the same time, it tends to drain out the excess water. So always ensure that you have a pot that has a drain hole so the excess water can flow out. If the water is going to stay in the pot, then the roots of the Calathea will get rotted, so you have to be careful. Now guys, the soil mix contents that I have made, it's especially made for my environment. That's why I'm not giving a exact proportion because the soil mix depends upon your environment. If you are from a dry environment, you'll have to increase the amount of coco peat. If you are from a very humid environment, then you'll have to reduce the amount of coco peat because coco peat tends to retain a lot of moisture. So the components of the soil, the composition of the soil completely depends upon your environment. So it's up to you how you want to prepare it. Now talking about watering, please do not keep your Calathea pot dry. Whenever you see that the upper layer of the soil around 1 to 2 inches is dry, go ahead and do a complete watering until the water starts passing through the drain hole. Remember guys, Calatheas belong to the rainforest. They tend to grow on the forest floor. They need a slight moisture in the soil but not soggy wet soil. So you have to ensure that you do not let the soil dry out completely. Now if the soil is dry, then the Calathea leaves will start to curl. They will start to close and fold inward, so you have to be extremely careful. That is also a sign that your Calathea is thirsty. At all given point of time, the Calathea leaves have to be open during the daytime. Only during the night time, a lot of Calatheas will start to close inwards. It looks like they are joining the hands. That's why they also get the name as prayer plants, because they tend to fold inwards during the night time, which is a very normal phenomena. You do not need to be worried. But during the daytime, the leaves have to be open. Even during daytime, if the leaves are not open, they are closed. That means either there is too much of direct sunlight, there is too much of heat, or there is not much water in the soil. So you have to ensure that you keep these things in mind. Now talking about pest issues, yes, Calatheas do get affected with spider mites or white flies. So it's always better to check underneath of the leaves because this is where a lot of bugs tend to hide. Now when I turn the leaf, you've seen this does not have the dark purple undertone like how our other Calatheas have, because this plant will do quite well in dappled sunlight as well as indirect bright light. But do not keep the Calathea in direct sunlight, otherwise the leaves will fold like this. So there should be a good amount of indirect bright light, or you can even give dappled sunlight. Now when I say dappled sunlight, it's basically if you have very huge plants above it, it's absolutely okay. The plant will do quite well. But do not keep it in direct sunlight. Otherwise, again, the leaves will start to curl and they will fold, or they are going to have a lot of burns. As you can see over here, this is what's going to happen if your Calathea is exposed to direct sunlight. There are going to be a lot of marks, lot of brown marks. Now again, water, do not use tap water, do not use direct tap water. It contains a lot of chlorine, it contains a lot of minerals. Calatheas do not like a lot of minerals and chlorine. So take your tap water let it sit in a bucket or a container for 24 to 48 hours before you go ahead and use it. So after 24 to 48 hours, all the chlorine will be evaporated from the water, and then you can use it for your Calatheas. Now, talking about propagation, you can do a root division. Now, this is a very small plant, so it does not have a lot of division of plants. It is just one single plant, but over the period of time, it tends to get very bushy, and then you can take out the plant and separate it from the roots, or you can separate the rhizome. Both of these methods will work out really well in order to propagate your Calatheas. Another important thing, humidity is the most important thing. Now you might be noticing that I have a small little container beneath the pot. Now there are two benefits of this. One is that the dirt does not spill around the place. It tends to stay inside the container. Apart from that, as I said guys, I belong to a slightly dry environment. It is not very humid, but it's not very dry. So what I tend to do is I give them a little bit of humidity. So what I do is, let me take out this container. So in this container, I have a little bit of water, around 1/4. So what happens is that this tends to work as giving a little bit of humidity. If you might have seen the pebble tray method, wherein we put pebbles in a tray with little bit filled with water, and then we keep the pot above it, this also tends to work the same way. In fact, in the pebble tray method, the water might evaporate much faster, but in this, the water stays in this for a longer period of time. So what happens is that when I have to water it, I take out the plant, I water the plant, and then I put it back into this. So there is always a little bit of water beneath, which tends to give a little bit of humidity to my plant, but you have to ensure that the water is not full. Do not keep it filled. After watering it, I always check that there is no excess water in this. It has to be only 1/4, because the whole purpose of this is just to give a little bit of humidity to the plant. But we do not want to put excess water, because if this pot is full of water, then your plant will be sitting in water, in soggy wet soil, and the plant will get rotted. So you have to be extremely careful that the water is not completely full in this. Very little water, around 1/4. And that is going to help and give a little bit of humidity to your plant. Now, Calatheas are not toxic to humans as well as to pets, so you can easily keep it around and increase the beauty of your garden. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep planting.